From the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Well, good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday, November 23rd, 2021. We are here with the latest cybersecurity news, aka your practitioner brief. If you are a cybersecurity practitioner, I'm James Azar, your host. We are live on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Please make sure to subscribe and follow our show. We've got a really awesome CISO Talk episode dropping later today. Tomas Maldonado, the CISO over at the NFL, joins me for the final episode of the year for CISO Talk. So CISO Talk will be relaunching next year. I've got some really cool announcements. You guys will see that stuff come up in January as we get ready to launch the new season of CISO Talk. But it's an awesome episode. You don't want to miss it. Tomas Maldonado, CISO Talk, go. It'll be out there later today. You don't want to miss it. Everyone that's here, go subscribe to the CyberHub podcast. Check out Veteran November. Some great episodes, really awesome people. Really, please make sure to tune in to that. Let's get to some of your comments this morning, folks. Chris Frazier, good morning to you. Eddie from Big Dallas, Texas, who's at the gym. Happy Thanksgiving. And I got to see who this is, folks. That'll be very awkward for me if I don't know who that is, but it is a happy Thanksgiving. I'm thankful for the CyberHub podcast. That is very, very kind. Good morning from the frozen tundra. That's going to be Wisconsin, right? Yeah, pretty sure that's Wisconsin. That's going to be Wisconsin. And again, having some issues here. Good morning to Mr. David Wallen from identifying who our two LinkedIn users are. We are a few short days from Thanksgiving. So one, have you got your turkey? If you have, are you defrosting it? Number two, are you a deep fry guy or an oven guy? Very interesting stuff goes on with turkeys on Turkey Day. But definitely make sure, to enjoy it. All right, folks, here we go. Tadius, I am going to butcher the name. Tados, good morning to you. David B., good morning. Folks, big shout out to KnowBe4 for their support of the show. Please see more about them in the show notes as well. And Stefan Semmelroth, folks, thank you so much, brother. Hashtag Thanksgiving. I am thankful for you, my friend, as well. All right. Before we get started, though, my double espresso. Now, I know it's a short week, and you go, James, you probably shouldn't overload on double espressos this week, but I will. I got a newborn. This is how I function. At 3 a.m., when he wants to eat, you gotta coffee. That's it. So all that can we do. Coffee cup cheers, folks. By the way, Chris Frazier is smoking the turkey this year. I am dying to see pictures. If you can, please do. All right, let's get right into cybersecurity news because we can talk about turkeys later. The Conti ransomware gang suffers a security breach. The Conti ransomware group suffered an embarrassing data breach after a security firm was actually able to identify the real IP address of one of their most sensitive servers and then gain counsel access to the affected system for more than a month. The exposed server, called the payment portal or recovery site, is where Conti tells its victims to visit in order to negotiate ransom payments. Our team detected the vulnerability in the recovery servers that Conti uses and leveraged the vulnerability to discover the real IP address of the hidden service hosting group's recovery website, according to Swiss security firm ProDaft. In a 37-page report that they published, they identified the server as being hosted on this IP address, 217.12.204.135, which is owned by the Ukrainian web hosting company ITL. They've also gotten the IP addresses and server passwords. However, they weren't able to really find the Conti operator and identify them simply because they were using Tor exit nodes. So they weren't able to do that. But you can see that where all of these IP addresses, everything that was connected, how long they were connected for, etc. IP exposure causes Conti to really scramble for a new host. And that just shows you that security is hard even for criminals. But good job for the ProDAF team. Thank you for sharing. One thing to take away from this is look at the IP address, understand that the modus operandi, block some of the stuff already in your system. You don't need to have it available. You can block these IP addresses. You can block some of these subdomains in that report, and that'll help stiffen up your security posture just a little bit. We'll move on to let me do take two here. Severe code execution vulnerability that's affecting the OpenVPN-based applications. Clarity has raised the alarm for a series of severe code execution vulnerabilities that are affecting the VPN solution that rely on OpenVPN. The company documented 4 security errors in product from HMS Industrial Networks, MB Connect Line, Perfect, and Siemens that allow attackers to achieve code execution by tricking potential victims into visiting a maliciously crafted web page. The VPN solutions are designed to provide you guys all know this. During its analysis of OpenVPN-based solutions, Clarity discovered that vendors usually deploy OpenVPN as a server with system privileges, which poses security risks because any remote or local application can control an OpenVPN instance to initiate or terminate a secured connection. Because in most cases, clear text protocol is used within the dedicated socket channel through which the front end controls and the back end without any form of authentication. Anyone with access to the local TCP port and the back end listens on, that could potentially load an OpenVPN config, force the back end to spawn a new OpenVPN instance with this configuration. Once the attacker actually clicks the link, the HTTP post request will be fired locally to the dedicated TCP port. And since HTTP is a clear text-based protocol, whichever line ends with an N, the backend server will read and ignore all the lines until reaching a meaningful command. They don't need to really set up anything. And so now we're waiting for a patch. If you are using any of these products here, though, understand that this is a live vulnerability and you probably want to address it as well. We've got a ton of comments that have come through here, so let's get to some of those. Coffee cup cheers to Mr. Christoph. Good morning, on a few days away from a turkey feast to Mr. Aaron Franks. Stephen Martin, peace, coffee, cheers, and may peace be with you all. Thank you so much, good sir, and good morning to Bob Henderson. Thank you for being here, Bob. We'll move on to an exploit released for the Microsoft Exchange RCE bug, which requires you to patch now. The proof of concept exploit code has been released online over the weekend, and now it exploits a high severity vulnerability impacting Microsoft Exchange servers. We talked about this yesterday, but now it is significant. The security bug track, the CVE 2021-42321, impacts on-premise Exchange servers 2016 and Exchange servers 2019, including those that are in Exchange hybrid mode. It was patched in this month's Patch Tuesday. However, now on Sunday, almost 2 weeks after the patch was issued, there's a proof of concept exploit for the Exchange post authorization RCE bug. Admins are warned to patch immediately. Install these updates, protect your environment. Obviously, now you can see that on-premise Exchange servers are under attack. Exchange admins have dealt with 2 massive waves this year, obviously proxy shell and proxy logon, but this is another one. So please, 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 if you're using on-premise Exchange or know anyone who is, make sure it's patched. If it's not, we could be talking about them in just a little bit. GoDaddy breach exposes 1.2 million managed WordPress customer accounts. GoDaddy was hacked and had customer data for some 1.2 million WordPress users exposed to the attacker for more than 3 months. In a SEC filing that GoDaddy filed, it confirms that millions of users of its managed WordPress hosting service had sensitive data stolen, including database username and passwords, email addresses, and even private SSL keys. GoDaddy didn't provide details on the compromise beyond the note that the attacker used a compromised password to access the provisioning system in its legacy code base for managed WordPress. The company said the hack began on September 6th. And over the last 3 months, the attacker gained access to valuable customer information. The raw details are up to 1.2 million active or inactive managed WordPress customers had email addresses and customer number exposed. The exposure of email addresses presents risks for a phishing attack. The original WordPress admin password that was set at the time of provisioning was exposed. If those credentials are still in use, GoDaddy has reset those passwords. For active customers with the SFTP and database usernames were exposed, GoDaddy set to reset both password. For a subset of active customers, the SSL private key was exposed. GoDaddy says that it is in the process of issuing and installing new certificates for all of those customers. The investigation is still ongoing, but a hit for GoDaddy on this one, and for anyone who's hosting a website using their managed service, really. We don't know the full impact of this yet. We don't know if they were able to put in add-ons to the WordPress site that were malicious in nature. So they're not only compromised the GoDaddy side, but they've also compromised the client side of that website. Something to keep in mind, folks. If you are a GoDaddy customer, I would suggest doing a thorough review of everything within your WordPress account. And now, biometrics. You guys know how I feel about this, right? I've talked about it significantly over a long period of time. Well, now there's a bypass using a fingerprint photo printer and glue, where researchers demonstrated that fingerprints could be cloned for biometric authentication for as little as $5 without using any sophisticated or common tools. Although fingerprints-based biometric authentication is generally considered superior to PINs and passwords in terms of security, the fact is that imprints can be left in numerous public places, making it ripe for abuse. Most people, when they use a fingerprint scanner, don't really wipe it off after they use it. So their fingerprint stays there. It's been previously proven that there are ways to collect and use people's fingerprints to fool even the most sophisticated sensors. But there's only a cheap way to do it, which is a printer and some glue. A team has demonstrated that stealing the fingerprints is a case of photographing it with any modern smartphone, then generating the negative on a photo manipulation software. This basic editing step is enough to adequately tone the outlines of the stolen fingerprint and prepare it for the printing step, so that no high-res DSLR images are even required. For the printing step, any laser printer accepting acetate sheets would be suitable for the attack. Acetate is typically used for cards, stencils, and overlays, but it's ideal in this case because the laser printer can etch it. Once the printing is over, the synthetic fingerprint can come together by applying some wood glue on top of the print and letting it dry. Although through testing, the Kraken team found that the resulting fingerprint can fool state-of-the-art fingerprint sensors, such as the ones used in the latest MacBook Pro. That's why biometrics should not be relied on, but it should be part of a greater scheme of things, showing you just how easy it is to manipulate biometrics. Should let you know all of it by itself. Finally, the U.S. government is warning of increased ransomware risks during the holidays. Talked about this yesterday, even before this warning came out, but CISO and the FBI are warning, hey, it's that time of year where threat actors are going to start taking advantage of it. You could be looking at card skimming, ransomware attacks, DDoS attacks, and much, much more. CISA has put out best practices like multi-factor authentication for remote access and admin accounts, strong passwords. If you're using RDP, ensure that it is secure and monitored. Remind employees not to click on suspicious links. Review your incident response plans and make sure it's all set and ready to go. If you guys remember, let me take you back to next year. SolarWinds happened just a short week after Thanksgiving. We saw a slew of attacks happen during the holiday season. Many people did not celebrate the holiday last year because of it. So do yourself a favor this year. Plan ahead, understanding that these threat actors are going to come for us. And they're going to come at a time when we all just want to clock out, go home, and spend time with our loved ones. Go through your incident response plan. Sit with your SOC teams. Look at your threat intel. Gather information. Try to make the best assessment possible for your organization. And finally, most importantly, be prepared for anything and everything. Target, if you recall, that breach happened just a short time ago. It was Black Friday when it happened. All right. Now, a lot of stores are closed on Thanksgiving this year. I know that Target is closed and many others. because of staffing and inventory, which I'm grateful for. I think that the whole idea of being open on Thanksgiving is just flawed to begin with, right? But make sure your organization is set and secure, and make sure your personal life is as well. These threat actors don't just go after companies, they go after people too. So that's it for us here today. Tomorrow, our last broadcast for the week before we break for Thanksgiving. So make sure you tune in. It's going to be a fun one. All right. Till then, have a great rest of your day and stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.